You're listening to Remotely We Are One, a podcast to help inspire others to take their lives back from the office commute. I'm Rick, a passionate beer rep who loves the industry but hates the commute.
And I'm Kaleem, a remote work advocate and consultant. We're going to speak with some of the top professionals who have managed to avoid the commute as they share stories from the most inspiring to the most comical, all while working remotely.
Man, this sounds exciting. Let's clock in.
Where are you both right now? I think, Kaleem, you're in Atlanta?
Yes, I'm in Atlanta.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, very nice. Cool.
So we're not too far from each other. And
we're a couple of Maine boys who migrated south.
Yeah, I'll say.
In the same region just by accident.
You just hate blueberries and lobster that much? You're like, we're out. We're done.
Well done. Not very many people know the blueberries thing.
Yeah, I'm learning that now.
It's in the beer.
Right. It's in the beer. Not
very true.
People don't know the blueberries thing. I think I said that to someone. They're like, "Oh, Maine blueberries." I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I think blueberries are popular for Maine."
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is the scorn I get from people when I'm just completely indifferent to lobster. Down here, it's like an unheard of delicacy, right? They're like, "Oh, I got to get it when I can," and I'm like, "Well, whatever." How dare you?
How dare
That's because in Maine they sell it at the McDonald's, aren't you?
Right.
Lobster?
Right. I'm like, guy, you don't understand. Yeah, like I know lobsters by name. That's how often I would see them growing up. Like we would converse with one another.
Let me out, please. So creepy. I'm sorry. It's like their eyeballs are so beady too. I just can't stand them. Actually, everything about
all the legs.
There it is.
All the legs really get me. That's like not. And I mean, I love seafood, but like too spidery. It's
right. And the way people flip them over and they're like, you got to get in there and just rip their rib cage right open.
Like a bib on.
And then they're eating like this lobster guts all over their face. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Oh God. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. And I probably won't at this point.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome back, everybody, to Remotely We Are One. I'm your host, Rick Haney, joined by my co-host, Kaleem Clarkson. Hey, man.
Hey, Rick. How you doing on this lovely, lovely, beautiful day today?
Oh, it's too beautiful to complain.
I mean, you look fabulous. You got the good hat going. You look great.
Indeed, I do. Thank you. As you do as well.
Thanks. I put on my fancy shirt for today's guest because, she makes me nervous because she's so awesome.
Yes, you've got that angelic glow about you. You look like you've been using your oil of Olay moisturizer.
Yes, we don't like to be ashy, Rick. We don't like to be ashy.
That's a no-no word on this podcast.
Ashy's not allowed on this podcast.
We're off to a great start, folks. Shit. We've got a really good show. I'm excited. Let's talk about some of the highlights of our guest.
Okay. So there's a lot of highlights. So for all of our guests, we try to trim it down because it just sounds too ridiculous if we keep going on and on and on and on. So we're going to start off with a little personal information. So she and her family moved and currently live in Israel since 2015. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She has written for Inside Higher Ed, shout out Higher Ed, Inc. magazine, and a ton of other publications. We didn't want to list them all. The most, to me, in my opinion, the most impressive, Rick, I think she's a contributor for Harvard Business Review.
Ooh, that's big time.
Yeah, I know. We're stepping up our game. Our guest just gets higher and higher. Harvard Business Review. She's a contributor. Wow. Check her out. Wow. We can't say her name quite yet. She once told her mother-in-law that I am a blanket. That she was a blanket in Hebrew. So that's pretty funny. I mean, she's trying to learn Hebrew because she's living in Israel. She wants to impress her mother-in-law, and I can just imagine how proud she was after taking lessons, right? And then she's like, I'm a blanket. That must have been pretty fun. She's the founder and CEO of Founders, which is a remote content agency serving the future of learning and work. Viewers, listeners, please give a warm welcome to Kristi DePaul. Yay!
Welcome aboard, Kristi. Good to have you here.
Thanks so much, Rick and Kaleem. Great to see you guys.
I'm excited to learn from you. As an aspiring writer myself, I always enjoy hearing the successes of other writers who are in the same space as I am. So I'm sure as we go along, I'll have a ton of questions for you. But the first one that I have, of course, is being a writer and, with this whole pandemic and lockdown thing. What was, despite a lot of other people being forced into working from home, what was the spark that kind of, what pushed you in the direction of doing this full time remotely?
So really great question. And I've been remote since 2013. So I recall in my first office job, right? I was working at a university and I remember looking out at the quad and the seasons would change. And like that quad just stayed the same. And every day I had to be there at a certain time. And I had my little coffee machine and people would stop by and interrupt me. And I just remember thinking, which sounds really antisocial right now, just like, oh my gosh, is this all there is? Is it just going to be this forever and ever, amen, like into the future? Is there nothing else? And I really wanted a future that I had more control over. And then frankly, I didn't love getting up incredibly early. I laugh at my former self now because having a toddler, I've got a human alarm clock. I'm up very early now, but I didn't like having to get up and go to a place every day. And I just thought work isn't a place. It's not, you don't have to be somewhere specifically to add value or to do, something that is a lot of knowledge work. It really doesn't require you to be on site. Honestly,
very good point. I did not know that about you, Kristi, that your professional career started in higher ed. I guess when I saw EduCause and stuff like that, for a lot of you that are not involved or haven't worked at a university, it's not as flexible as you may think. And the whole quad and the whole experience, they really try to sell you on that being present. And, it is kind of beautiful. I won't lie. Like campus is beautiful. The excitement when students are there on campus, there is a little bit of sense of excitement. So how did you get, involved in higher ed? Was that your first professional experience?
It was. If you scroll way, way back on the LinkedIn, no one has to do this, but yeah. First job out of grad school was at an institution in Michigan.
Another Carnegie Mellon alum. It seems like you are.
Yes. I'm a Carnegie Mellon alum. And what's funny is my first job out of grad school was at Central Michigan. So they referred to Carnegie Mellon all the time as the other CMU, like kind of contemptuously. And I was like, I'm from the other CMU. Mm-hmm. So my graduate degree is in nonprofit arts management. So a lot of that was tied around the performing arts. A lot of it had to do like nonprofit management. There's an underpinning of fundraising and really understanding governance and all these things that are very helpful in higher ed environment. And so I thought, hey, I could, it's recession proof working for a university. And I've been around here. I know what the place is like. And it's kind of nice. I thought maybe it's sort of like extending your college a little bit, like into your adulthood. So as a first job, like a first foray into employment, that made a lot of sense. But I started there and then shifted to the startup world. So educational consulting and some ed tech startups, which was another kind of like natural dovetailing from higher ed, being on campus. And then moved from there to doing some teaching and working at EduCause, which is a very large professional association, the premier higher ed IT association, I believe is how they build themselves.
Absolutely awesome. So one question I do have, we have a lot of writers in our audience. I mean, writing is a very popular industry. There's a lot of good people out there who want to get to that next level, but there's also a lot of saturated spaces. There's like places like Upwork and all these different forums that are there's such a small piece of the pie that so many people are trying to get to. What advice could you lend to aspiring writers to kind of hone their chops and really want to pursue this writing as, working from home as a writer, as a career? Where would you suggest they start?
So great to hear that they're
pressure.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well, do I?
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
For a friend. Just hypothetical,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I actually, so there's a ton of people on Twitter right now talking about writing as a profession. And it feels like, and maybe you've seen this, it feels like it's a little bit of an echo chamber. So I wouldn't actually suggest, being on Twitter. A lot of people are sharing some, I mean, it's fine, you can be there, but that's not where you're probably going to get gigs. I think Upwork is fine to start if you don't have a professional network already. It's a great way to sort of passively, like, to be visible and to be out there and maybe land a project or two. I would probably try to be really prescriptive about those first projects. I wouldn't just be like, I can do anything. No, if you want to write a blog, say, I want to write a blog for like a really specific niche, and then you're just easier to find on the platform itself, right? And then that will help position you further. So that's point one, is if you're going to go to those sites, you should probably be as specific as you can about like what verticals you want to focus on. If you haven't thought about that yet, think about it.
Okay.
It's like an extended sort of, I'm looking at you. And then,
yes, Kristi.
I've seen it.
Get him,
I saw it.
Get him, Kristi. Get him, Kristi.
Don't encourage him.
I'm sorry. I will try not to, but I probably will. No. So, and then aside from that, I would look at, okay, what's your current body of work? Do you have something that's online? Do you have a portfolio? If not, how can you build that out? And think about it as like rungs of a ladder, right? You're probably not going to go from like 0 to HBR. If you do, you're amazing. You're anointed. Good job. Please teach me things. But otherwise, I would say, look at some of these companies that are either already media sites or attempting to have like a really strong media presence in-house, because they're probably looking for freelancers. It's not as if they have that huge capacity internally, like not unless there may be a startup that has gotten like a series, I don't know, B or C. So I'd be looking at smaller startups that could really need help from a content perspective. And again, if you've niched down, if you figured out like what your focus is, then you're better positioned. And then in a sea of writers, it's like, well, this is the kind of writer I want to be. So this is what I bring. And those are the types of things you should be reading as well and keeping up on.
That's the exact advice that I needed to hear. Do you hear that, everybody? This is so on point. Awesome advice. Thank you so much.
And actually, it was Kristi that convinced me to even write my first blog post. I have this huge fear of writing. I don't know what it is. I can talk all day, obviously, people, because I guess I don't give a shit what I say. And if I mess it up, it's like, whatever, I messed it up. That's what I said. But to me, it's just like this fear of like the word being forever. And I don't know, like, as that blank thing came up. So I remember one of the first times we met, Kristi literally did the same thing, Rick. She looked at me, she said, you need to write this shit and you need to start from somewhere, get right and stop making excuses. I was like, oh my gosh, this is our first call. I can't even believe it. and
I just got bulldozed. I barely know this one.
Right. And it was some of the best advice that I'm still afraid, but I did post the article, posted a couple articles since, and I've been writing a little bit more. So thank you, Kristi. I thank you so much for pushing me over the edge.
My pleasure for pushing you over the edge. That sounds terrible. No, but I think we all get trapped in our heads a little bit too much, and we get a little bit too concerned. And now, even as you're saying that, the written word, I'm like, whoa, yeah, it reminds you of, it's the quote from like The Social Network, the internet is written in ink. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's true.
Right.
That is true. Yeah. But I don't know. I think everybody has different fears and phobias. Like podcasts, I don't think I'm quite in the space where you guys are, where this is like so fun.
Oh, stop. Just stop.
We're just really good actors. That's all.
Yeah. We like to have fun. I think our guests make a majority of the fun on the podcast. I think that's why so many people love doing podcasts, because you don't have to do the work as the guest. Oh, a little bit of work, but anyway. Yeah. I have a question from a remote work perspective. So you've been doing this for a while. Tell me a little bit about, like, at what point did you look at Founders as an agency? You were already remote, and what's really interesting is hearing from a lot of the reporters in a lot of these publications. I've met with a few writers, and they are kind of like, why do I need to go into the office, especially for like the New York Times or Bloomberg. They've all been writing all these great articles, so I can get a sense that a majority of writers enjoy the remote work aspect, because you need deep time, you need deep focus, right? You need deep focus to produce. At what time, when you were kind of freelancing, did you say, hey, you know what? I want to create this agency that can help other founders, I'm assuming, hence the name, produce this great content. And then I also want to kind of help founders who are in the remote work space and like the future of learning area. What was it that kind of made you transition from, hey, I want to be just a writer as a person? What was it that kind of really made you transition to creating your own business and then kind of transitioning your business to help agencies or organizations in this space of the future of learning and the future of work?
Well, I mean, interestingly, I didn't really do the freelancer to agency thing. I started out as like, all right, this is an agency. It's an agency of one. And then I pulled in my best friend who still, it's like you guys, we've known each other for 30 years. And we have also said that we should host a podcast, and our podcast.
Do it for writers.
We would, because she's
over the hump.
She's a copywriter. She's a videographer. It would be incredible. But we've said
5%. We want 5% of when you get famous. You said it.
And I want to be the first guest.
Yeah.
I'll be the first guest.
You guys,
I'm
both
here
of
to
you
learn.
Together. It'll be like
Right.
old friends chatting. No,
Yeah.
so right from the very beginning. So I bought the Founders domain. I was like, this is it, founders.marketing, boom. I was never like, I am a freelancer. I'm very much not in that mindset, because I was thinking of how can I build this into something. It's not something yet. It's me and, some project stuff come rolling in. But I was thinking, I want this to be a career. This isn't like Kristi takes a break and kind of feels it out. Right. I was like, this is like
a lifestyle business.
Yeah, this is going to be a thing. That said, in the very beginning, it was like, okay, though, but like, people give us project work, and so in Israel, you can basically, I joke, you can walk out of your apartment and trip over a bunch of startups and founders. So there's plenty of possible clients here. And of course, I've met people since moving here, and Kaleem is now back. Great. I've met people since moving here, and I was able to get referrals and meet other folks. And so we got clients that way. But initially from the very beginning, I never used the word freelancer, which is, I guess, kind of interesting, because I've always felt like this is a bona fide career, and nothing against someone who wants to be a freelancer. But I don't look at this as, I don't really want periods of feast or famine. I want something to build something sustainable that I can bring other people into as well.
I love that.
That's amazing.
And even the thought process of, yes, I want to write, but I don't want to be, and again, freelancing is great. There's nothing wrong with freelancing. It's just about making that decision of, do you want to be the individual as I'm Kaleem and I am this and hire Kaleem? Or do you want to hire, Kaleem through his agency? I think that's a really important thing for anyone doing any business, because there is value in being the individual. Obviously, influencers, influencers are their name, and they're making tons of money of being themselves and selling themselves. So I understand that there is a huge difference of marketing an agency versus yourself. But having that thought process early on, I would advise to anybody who's creating some sort of entity. Do you want to represent yourself as a person and sell yourself, because you're always selling yourself? Or do you want to build this thing and have this thing be the thing that you're pushing all the time? I think it's great that you had that foresight early on. So kudos to you.
And just to add on, I mean, it helps other people, right? It's like a servant's mentality. I think it was Zig Ziglar, who was a fantastic motivational speaker years ago. He said, we can have anything we want in life if we help enough other people get what they need. And I always found that to be captivating with everything that I've done, because once you can get outside yourself and inspire people, it's like the old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? We're all in this together. We heard that a lot during the lockdown.
We did.
So it's commendable that you're approaching this, as Kaleem said, as a means of working with other people as well.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, both of you. Thank you. I think the way I thought about this was, look, it's like you will always have a personal brand. So whether you're working at Blend Me or anywhere else, you're still you. And especially if you're heading up an organization, your brand definitely matters. So that's not something that I intended to neglect, and hopefully I didn't, but it's more that I thought, okay, but I could have more of an impact if I bring in some really creative, smart people to work with me.
Yes.
And those people could be anywhere in the world. So we're in Israel. We've got teammates in the States. We've got a colleague in Kenya. So we work with people. We've got a designer in Portugal. It's wherever people are.
So with that said, Founders is out there doing big things. So any of you startups or small businesses or even big companies who are remote or are hybrid, whatever you want to call it, flexible working, reach out. See if you need some content help, reach out to Founders. It's definitely good stuff. So I got to ask you, there's a lot of writing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, just a couple quick notable projects that we just wrapped up. Writing a huge 11,000 word report on the evolving conversation in online learning in higher ed. And we wrapped up a digital literacy guide for adults with the Barbara Bush Foundation that we're really proud of too. So design and content. And so that really speaks to our underlying ethos, which is how can we make the greatest impact and help people in terms of boosting their social and economic mobility. And that's what I think remote work is about. It's about freedom and flexibility and all the niceties that everyone talks about, all the luxury stuff, and that's great. And let's do work from a hammock on a beach somewhere. But it's also about how can we take control of our lives and move people from point A to point G, right? How can we get them to really advance? And I think that there's a lot of opportunity that previously we were stuck with what was in our geography. Now we're not.
Yeah, geez, wow. You hit me real hard with the whole, we can save people's lives and change their lives. And we haven't really talked too much about that on this podcast, have we, Rick? From the idea of
we haven't
changing, wealth, redistributing wealth in different areas that never had access to that wealth. You have different countries and isolated locations. You have different cities, different towns. It really could change a whole country's, persona, even what they're perceived as now that there's more money flowing around. You talked about you're hiring someone from Kenya. We actually have 2 people that are in that area that have been working for Blend for a while, and it's amazing the talent level that they have, and obviously the difference in price. I think hopefully over time we'll see a little bit more evening out, so people aren't trying to take advantage. I think that's what's happening right now. A lot of people trying to take advantage of some of these areas, but that's really deep. Thank you for making me get hit hard right in the middle of a podcast.
Right. You've really stumped us, Kristi. We're just like, whoa. Hang
on
a second.
Well,
damn it. I was trying to crack jokes. And now I'm all
sorry. No jokes.
My feels are
no jokes.
I'm all up in my feelings and shit.
And,
we're gonna pause this so I can dab my tears out a little bit.
Yeah, he's got to get himself together. But I think one thing I'd also like to mention is that there's a plethora of misinformation, especially online. People who are looking to get started, who are not only looking to get started, but have found a passion for writing later in life. I always thought that I could be a writer, but it wasn't until I got into, raising a family and started to get older that I should have done this sooner. And now that I'm kind of dipping my toe in the water, I'm seeing, oh, well, you can take this course. I've been a writer for blah, blah, blah. And my course is normally $97, but today for you, it's only $29.
Courses everywhere. Courses.
Is this where I should plug my course?
Abundance of courses.
Yes. Please tell me. Please tell me you got a course. Please tell me you have one.
I need it.
We're going to go make one now, though.
Yes.
No,
put it on Gumroad.
You might.
I'll give you guys a discount code.
Right.
Damn you! I'm literally sending out a discount code after this podcast.
5%.
Use the code Kristi to get 5% off.
No.
But anyway, my point was that at some point, I think you mentioned it earlier, you become a professional learner versus an earner, and I actually stumbled into what they call analysis paralysis, where I was getting so much information that I couldn't process all of these different things that I had to do. And I was just like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to start over. And I think that prohibits a lot of people from moving forward.
It does. It really does. So a couple of thoughts on that as far as the courses are concerned. And there might be some really fantastic ones. So I'm not here to like disparage the course industry.
Yeah, they're just jokes, everybody. They're just jokes. Understand
jokes.
It. Of course there's good courses. She went to Carnegie Mellon. I mean, like, of course she loves education. Relax.
Yeah. Relax. No. I think the best thing you can do as a writer or as an aspiring writer is to read a lot and to read a lot of varied pieces, right? So you can read nonfiction, that's great. You can read some fiction, dabble in some of like the top essays of the past, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, read poetry, but also read business periodicals, just devour words, and it will help you. It will give you more ideas, and it will help you cut through that analysis paralysis.
Absolutely.
Devour words, everyone. Point number one.
Just
here we go. She's dropping dimes.
I'm just getting started.
Okay.
I know. Get out the notebooks. No, so when you're starting a new piece, so my last piece in HBR is about generational prejudice. And so we were like, this is a really heavy topic. It's part of their big idea series.
Big time.
We're really excited. I co-wrote it with my editor, Vast. She's amazing. And as we're thinking about the intro, we're like, okay, well, this is, it's a very heavy topic. It's quite layered. We waded through research for 2 months to write this piece, and we spoke with, I don't know, half dozen experts. It was a lot of work and thinking that went into what ended up being, I think, a really well thought out piece. But at the very beginning, we're like, how do we rope people in? How do we start this thing? And I feel that whenever you are facing analysis paralysis, you're always like, how do I start? It's just about starting. So I look at it as, how would I tell this to a friend? How would I like set the scene? And so that intro in particular, I think it starts by saying something like the year was 2005. Mariah Carey and Gwen Stefani are vying for the top song of the year. And I'm like trying to really put people in 2005. That also happens to be the year I graduated college. So some nostalgia, but like talking about it, like how, like this is the year and here's what happened, and really just bring people into that moment, get them emotionally invested in the beginning, because I see way too many like SAS writers throwing out statistics at the beginning.
I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for the stats. So
number
one, devour words.
Have the emotional hook.
Yeah. Number two, a good hook. Bring people in. Just get started. What else you got? You want to keep going? This is good.
I got more.
Let's get some more.
So once you get to your conclusion and you feel like, man, this is really strong, loving my conclusion, take another look again at your intro and see that first sentence of your conclusion and see if it doesn't make for a better intro sentence, a better lead, if you will. So if you're really stuck, if that lead doesn't feel strong enough, you just like pull from your own conclusion, take it and put it somewhere else. Yeah, it really does work.
A flip, the 360. Like basically you may have your best opening line and your closing line. So then what do you do with your closing line?
So you'll find that whatever you've written after that really strong line often will dovetail nicely with the paragraph before. You might not even need that line in there, or you add something, because what you're doing at the end, you've hit your stride, right? Like you're done with a piece. You're almost like celebrating by the time you get to the conclusion. You're like, I'm so good, that you love it and you just know what you're talking about. But then it's like, I think too many writers wait until the conclusion to really tell the reader what they want to know. And you cannot bury that. You should just put that up at the beginning and then just see how everything flows.
You are a magician. Dropping knowledge. I love it.
Visit my course. No.
Yes.
It's launching soon. Sign up for the wait list.
For a discount code, remotely, we are one. For your discount code.
That's right.
What's so funny is, like I've got teenage stepdaughters, right? And so they have, just for whatever reason, of course they've watched tons of YouTube videos, so they can do a complete parody of a YouTuber down to like, okay, everyone, look for the HelloFresh subscription. Don't forget to hit the like button. Da, 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 da. And
that's
I'm like,
amazing.
Oh
yeah,
do it,
like,
Rick.
This,
do it.
Do it.
Do it, Rick.
Do what?
You know what I mean. Smash that like button.
Yes. I hate that shit. Hey, everybody, welcome back to my channel. Before we go any further, smash that like button right there at the bottom. Be able to update you all the time with awesome content. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay. So
don't forget to ring that bell.
Don't forget to ring the bell because it's a stupid bell. So, kind of circling back to remote. So, lots of great tips here for writing. I can't believe the whole conclusion thing. That's a good one.
You're gonna have to try it. Tell me if it works for you.
I definitely will, and I love
for sure.
Like, we're definitely using a headline and a highlight from this of Devour words. I mean, are you kidding me? That's amazing.
Yeah,
should be a band name too.
Well, I think it was. I can't remember his name. Stephen King, maybe, whoever he is.
Ooh.
Some dude we know.
Yeah, some dude we grew up with.
From your neck of the woods, really.
Yeah.
He said the only way a writer ever becomes good is to read a lot and write a lot. There's nothing else to it.
Pretty
and
simple.
Those are your exact words too, Kristi.
Yeah, you know what, Rick? Why don't we connect Kristi and Steven?
I think we should.
Get them connected.
We'll get
them connected.
Yes.
Steve, I hope you're doing well out there.
I have a photo of me standing outside his house, which I'm sure he loved that.
You've been to Bangor?
Oh yeah, I'd like driving through on like a road trip. Yes. Yeah.
Well done.
We grew up in Bangor. That's crazy.
Well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trick or treating. So with right now, this content everywhere, like before the pandemic, and what I'm noticing about the content. So now I want to ask you, just from a small business's perspective, or a startup, or someone who's trying to get their message heard. Prior to the pandemic, our blogs are, kind of seemed like they were doing okay because there weren't a ton of people talking about remote work. And then you had the first couple of months and all of the blogs and all of the articles were talking about how great remote work is. Then a few months after that, you start seeing people saying remote work stinks because I'm having all these Zoom calls. And then, you see we're back to the office. So something that I've noticed is almost like the articles, especially on LinkedIn, it's almost like the articles kind of shift with the emotional context of society, right? So now every article and every ad even on LinkedIn is about the return to office. Like everything is about that.
Or hybrid,
hybrid. Hybrid is
just
everywhere. So as a content writer, how do you feel about, number one, how these different articles are being written on remote work, but how do you cut through the noise? How are you supposed to get your word out when there's so many people talking about these different things in remote work?
You brought only the hard questions. Only the hard questions. Shoot. You know what? You better supply guests in the future with questions in advance, because man, that's a really tough one. I think what's important is that you don't ride the wave of the trend. And if you're going to ride that wave, if you're going to talk about the return to the office, then you better it doesn't have to be a completely contrarian view, but it better be something different than other than, it's a challenge, it's hard, here's how to manage it, la, la, la. There's a lot of derivative content out there. I'm sorry, but it's being, these are the things that editors might be assigning. It might just be how the writers are crafting it. But people who maybe don't have a certain depth of experience with remote work are kind of writing really superficial pieces about what it's like and how to do it and la, la, la. And so I think you can skirt that and you can bring a different level of depth to any conversation, as long as you have the experience to back that up. And if you don't, bring someone in to talk about it. Especially, I think it's great if you're a small business to bring in other experts and talk to them and say, hey, what do you think? What are you seeing from where you sit? It just makes sense also from a marketing perspective. The more people that you're interviewing and quoting in a piece, those are people who could potentially share the piece as well. And it could reach their audience and impact more people.
What are you seeing? That's interesting. That's a great point. You better have something strong to say if you're going to ride the wave. It's important. Yeah. What do you, just as a writer and just devouring lots of words on the future of work and even learning and stuff, what do you think is a common thread between the future of work and the future of learning? What are you seeing as the real big common thread, number one? And then number two, what do you feel like the biggest challenges moving forward with this whole workplace flexibility, remote work, remote learning thing?
So I think what's shared or what's common between the future of work and learning is the fact that it's like no longer is your education done as soon as the ink dries on your diploma. You are going to be learning throughout your career. You will probably have, a dozen different jobs before you retire, depending on what age you are right now. So you have to always be thinking about upskilling and changing and adapting, because this world of work that we're in now is not the world of our parents' generation. No, we're not going to be getting a celebratory clock for having worked somewhere for 15, 20 years. Probably not going to happen. The pensions aren't there that used to be there. So that sort of safety net has really changed. So it's really about being adaptable and being a lifelong learner, like constantly being open to reforming who you are and what you do to ensure that you stay marketable and you're able to continue to contribute. So that's point one. Like that it's now more of a flowing into, it's not like we stop and we start and we stop. It's like, no, you're going to be learning throughout. And that's why you see all the alternative credentials, the nano degrees and the courses and whatever,
right.
It's a lot of that is really good stuff, because if someone is like retraining or switching careers, that's really needed. So let's not get people into $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 of debt if they don't need to,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Amen.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So that's point one. That's the common part. And then the challenge, I think, for organizations, I think it's been characterized as like the war on talent, right? So being able to secure talent and keep them in whatever capacity. If they're contractors and they stay with you, wonderful. If they're full-time employees, great. But creating an environment where people feel constantly like incentivized and rewarded, this is not, the HR even of 30 years ago. We've got to be thinking about the benefits and the holistic, like the word perks just doesn't even, I don't like this word, right?
No, it's more about the person. Like you're talking about a more 360, like the organization has to care more about just the performance. They got to care more about the person and all the things that the best organizations will care about. Hey, you have a doctor's appointment, or you have this thing, or you have these other things, what gets you motivated. Like it's not just the performance. So I hear what you're saying. It's not perks, but like what they would, I don't know. I don't even know what you would call it. People.
I don't know. I don't know either.
What do you say, Rick? What would you call it?
Yeah.
Perks. Anti-perks.
I think maybe just caring about being fucking human, maybe like just shit, maybe.
These are our give a shits right here. Boom, 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 boom. And you are at the top of the give a shit list.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, bro. Did you just create that now?
I did. Thank you very little.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
He's going to trademark it right now.
I think it's great.
It's already done. I've already just got off the phone with my legal team. It's done. It's done.
All right, Rick, now's the time.
Now is the time for that question that we and all of our listeners love to be asked. Tell us about something funny that happened to you with remote work, something comical or memorable that you'll never forget while working from home.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
Well, did I have to be working from home or
no.
Because I
good point. Good point. Working remotely. That's a good point, everyone. Working remotely is not just working from home. Let's just put that out there as a PSA.
It's not just working from home. I love sharing this because it's fun to be on a podcast with two guys and say like, well, on a lot of remote work calls, I'm a mom, right? So I had a baby that is now a toddler, and I have definitely breastfed on calls, on video calls. It is a thing. And I know
it's a thing.
But you're waiting for me to say like, and then they found out, or and then they saw, and no one knew.
All I'm hearing in my mind, and it sounds, people, so be uncomfortable right now, is the breast machine.
No, not pumping.
The pump.
No. Definitely not pumping.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Like actual breastfeeding of a child, like a human child.
Oh,
natural. You're not seeing anything. I could be right now. You wouldn't know, but I'm not. But like that, so that I've done.
I think Kaleem would know.
But I'm not, just to clarify. Okay, so let's tell this story so that we can get a little, like, how did it work? You like the call? Let's set it up.
Well, look, I did this so many times that for that to be, like, I have a couple of quick stories here. So for that to even be a single thing, I'll just start by saying, like, A client once said to me, "Ain't no hood like motherhood." And I was like, yes, that is so true. Like, it is really true. So for anyone who I've worked with who's
whoa, hang on, rewind. I'm confused because it's hilarious to me, this whole story, and the fact that we haven't had anyone say this yet, actually,
I know,
is pretty shocking. So wait, are you saying that like you're on this call and you're breastfeeding, and then just one of your clients was like, "There ain't no hood like the motherhood," and you're like, "Oh my gosh." Oh my gosh, they know. They're on to me. They're on to me.
No, she was a mom. There were some people who I was just like, look, if I have to feed her, is that okay? Like, I would ask and they'd be like, yeah, sure. And I didn't have to mention anything. But then there are other people who I just like covertly would be like,
good for you though.
And you can do it. And it's just, I don't know, ladies, if you have the right wardrobe, it has like built-in malfunctions for you that are functional. So you will be fine and you can do this. So that's thing one. Let's see, other stories, like just working from places where people wouldn't normally work from ever. Like before our little one was born, my husband and I used to travel a lot. So we would travel, like once a month, even like 2018 was like the year of travel. So every month we went somewhere new and I was dragging the laptop literally all over the world. So we were in Madagascar at like a cool hotel where clearly no one ever works ever. Like no one goes there to work. It's really weird. It's not like, it's like countercultural to be there and be like pulling out the laptop, what the hell is wrong with you? And I remember the lady who ran the hotel was like kind of spicy, and she was looking at me and giving me a lot of side eye for even having brought a laptop, how dare I, to the one place that had internet. And I just looked at her and I was like, I run a company. And if I didn't run that company, we wouldn't be here. So I am opening my laptop and everyone else can just deal. So it's interesting, there's like a stigma at some places that are like vacation destinations. If you pull out a laptop, people just really get up in arms about it.
So King Julian, what's King Julian like in Madagascar? Is King Julian cool?
I just believe he likes to move it. That's all I got.
There is no other explanation that would suffice. That is the perfect response.
She did it without even cracking. She did it without even cracking.
Didn't even blink.
Oh, so for all of you who aren't getting it, you obviously don't have kids because we literally saw that movie Madagascar a million times. And King Julian, he sings the song, "I like to move it, move it." I like to move it.
A couple times.
You just reserved yourself a seat on the show anytime you want.
Wow.
Anytime.
That's what it took. Amazing.
Not only did you tolerate us, but you also outdid us, which is amazing.
Wow. Well done, Kristi. Well done.
Yeah. Kristi DePaul, thank you so much for being on the show. Yes. Where can our listeners and viewers find you? Where's the easiest place to find you online?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, of course. Perfect. Please connect with me. And I'm also on Twitter at ReallyKristi.
Really, Kristi?
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. This has been an awesome episode. I can't wait till it goes to air. I'm excited. Thank you for all your
terrified.
insight.
Thank you.
Oh, no. We clean up well, trust me.
I just love it. Like, you guys are so free and like your language. Because I'm the mom of a toddler, I'm so not used to like everything becomes goodness, and it's really PG. And so, wow, it's just
please don't listen to our podcast with your children in the car. We've had a couple people kind of give us a heads up. I was sitting there vacuuming and I was like, oh, dude, hey, we put explicit on our episodes. Pay attention. The little E is on there. Damn.
Yeah. You gotta think of the little ones, people. We can't be responsible for our own behavior.
No. Well, Kristi, thank you so much. You've been a huge help to myself personally and in my career and what we're doing at Blend. I know Rick's going to get a ton of value from this. All you writers out there, reach out to her. She will definitely give you a little kick in the butt to keep you going and also give you some good advice. So again, thank you so much and come back anytime.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotelyone.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.